Hello world! Patricia, O'Connor, and Frida Reba Darcy here today on the Bonsai balcony. We're gonna get, how low can we go? We're gonna do a Bald Cypress show. Come here. I'm Patricia O'Connor. This is my partner in crime, wiggling into frame, tail wagging. Frida Reba Darcy, and we are the Bonsai balcony. And today on the Bonsai balcony, what you see before you is our Bald Cypress compilation, Cactusodium bitchum. These guys have been with us since the start. Whenever I get a notice from Facebook that tells us how long we've been doing this. And I started doing YouTube videos just about the time I got my first bonsai tree. It's a funny thing. I decided that I wanted to do bonsai again, pick up bonsai, which was a hobby I had for a short time as a teenager. And in Southeast Texas growing up, a long time ago. So I decided I wanted to pick that up as a hobby again. So I went to YouTube. And what it looked like to me was everybody with a bonsai tree also had a YouTube channel. So here we are, 900 shows later. I have about 100, more or less, including seedlings, bonsai trees on a small balcony. Thus the name of the Bonsai balcony. And we have our issues, and our issues are kind of the same issues you might have if you had a huge backyard with a bunch of bonsai trees spread out over your estate. Your issues would be the same issues I have, and they are space, light, and water. So yeah, so no matter how big or how small those are, and but I have slightly different issues with light, for instance. Maybe if you had a huge backyard, you have to worry about all the trees in the neighborhood, which would make your neighborhood beautiful, but they could also perhaps block the light. Or maybe there's a building across the way that just keeps the sun from ever hitting your backyard or something. You know, that would be a light issue. My light issues are, we have a ceiling, we have a covered balcony, so it's kind of like a shoebox tilted on in. We get what comes in even though we're covered. And I try to counter what we may be losing in what reaches in by having grow lights. I have two big old huge grow lights up there. They light a 4x5 area times 2 of them, and they're equivalent to like 5K vegetable grow lights. But they're LEDs, they don't make any heat, they don't make my meter spin like a frisbee. I can afford the power bill on a retail gal's wages. So that's kind of what we had to do. And since we started, we went with sun-hungry trees. We decided that sun-hungry trees were going to be what we were going to go for. We weren't going to see how little, we weren't going to ease into it. We were going to go big and see whether or not a black pine could live on a balcony. We were going to see if a Bald Cypress could live on a balcony. I didn't think maples and stuff like that were that much of a challenge, because you see those growing in the shadier parts of people's yards. They prefer a little, so I think where I'm sitting right now, without a grow light, and my maples would probably do just fine off of the ambient. However, just so you know, you're seeing me pretty well backlit right now, I assume. But this is the winter months, and as we go from late summer to fall to winter, the sun goes from higher in the sky, going choom, 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 till later in the season it starts going more this way, and then more this way, and then more this. And the lower it gets in the sky, from my viewpoint, from day in to day out, the farther in the light reaches. So you go, well, that's good. It's reaching farther in, but except that's the winter light. That's all orange and tells the plants that we're in winter. So they're getting the message that it's winter really well. But when it's spring and summer and they need to get that bam, that full 8 hours of intense light, that's when the sun is up higher, a little higher than my eve level. And in order to get the minimum 6 hours that I felt like I needed, I decided to go with those lights so that if I had nice trees, I wouldn't have to worry about losing nice trees over light issues. So the last couple of years, I've had this tree turned around the other way, and I've kind of let the base go. One side was way mossier than the other, and I've got surface roots all over the place. I don't mind them, but also, speaking of, since these are Bald Cypress, I'll just say I'm going to go through here and cut away all the surface roots. I'm not going to go digging deep and ripping up whatever they can just die in place. But I'm going to go through and tease this out a little bit, and I'm going to clean up all the surface roots up here on the top of this tree, of these 3 trees. This side and the back side, which I don't know, when I frame it up, I'll probably be able to see it pretty good. But I've got a lot more cleanup to do, and this side looks higher than this side. So I hope to clean this up enough and cut this back enough to where when I go through and broom it out, I'll have both sides. Yeah, I can even feel it just putting my hand in. Have both sides a little bit more evened out. The tools that we'll be using today are these hybrid cutters, these scissors, stainless scissors. These are standing by. I shan't need them. Stainless tweezers. These are some duck-bill tweezers with some really grabby little alligator jaws on them. What the tools that I plan on, and some side cutters. And these are hybrid. And what I plan on, what all of those tools have in common is they're stainless, and they're not my tools that have what I call precious tool status. That would be like mom's scissors. Yeah, mom's scissors had, in my household, we might have had welding machines and brake presses and big old huge machines that actually paid the bills and put bread on the table. However, they didn't really have the status or get the respect that mom's scissors did. I always just took that, where are the scissors? They're in the cabinet next to the silverware. But not your mom's good scissors. So, yeah. What I'm saying is because what you just saw me do right there, I'm digging deep in the akadama a little bit and cutting back these surface roots. And I have some Japanese tools that are made out of black steel, not because black steel is durable to well weather, but because it holds the edge and makes for the finest tool for the job. As for what can take the most abuse, that's the stainless. And when having a fine tool, a tool worthy of taking good care of it, then those are my good blue steel Japanese chin pliers and pruners. But when it comes to what I'm doing now, digging in soil and allowing soil to get in the hinge and the teeth, when I bring those together, I wouldn't do that. I wouldn't do that with my black steel tools. It's just a matter of I wouldn't be doing anything that I couldn't fix. And I see other people do that all the time. It's just a matter of respect. I have some tools that I have some tools that I have to use so that I can preserve the tools that I think are precious longer. And, and that's kind of what I meant by mom's scissors. Not your mom's good scissors. I even say that on the I even say that on the sales floor. Somebody will buy some light gauge wire to hang pictures or something, and they go, "What do I need to cut this?" And I'm like, "You can just about cut that with scissors, just not your mom's good scissors." And everybody kind of, more often than not, I'll see that look that says they know what that means, Okay. You see what I'm doing here? I'm just kind of going to town and now, let's say you tuned into this because you think, oh, Patricia has some pretty nice looking Bald Cypress trees. Thank you. We've had these guys going for about 5 years. I think a little over 5 years. Not under. If under, not by much. No, I think a little over 5 years. I say that because Facebook said, congratulations, we've been doing this for 5 years. Last fall. And what it showed was a video of me doing this. So I think that I didn't go all the way 900 videos. I didn't scroll all the way back to all of those. But yeah, this was one of our first. These Bald Cypress trees were one of our first projects. I was really inspired by these, not because of any one particular bonsai artist, but because I grew up in an area of Texas, the Texas Gulf Coast, and these and loblolly pines were prominent. So you would see a lot of cypress trees. People would have them in their yards. Growing up, some neighborhoods would partially flood. Not like, oh my God, it's just like one end of your property line would be wet and ankle deep water for a month until it finally stopped raining. Kind of a thing. And Bald Cypress trees would love such an issue. That's the kind of, sitting there just a couple of inches deep, soaking your feet. And this season's rainwater, that's what they're all about. So it wouldn't be unusual to have one of these in your yard if you wanted to totally get away with that. They make beautiful shade. The temperature always seems to be cooler. It's like you can just feel the cool air or the cool water, and it's kind of what it is. It's like a higher water content in the air, and it feels cooler underneath the cypress tree. That's just the way I always thought of it. And that was not knowing anything about botany. That was as a hot, sweaty 12-year-old walking underneath a cypress tree when you've been out in the field doing whatever kids do, Those were always noticeable oases. You would not only get in the shadow of one of these guys, but you would feel the air would be reviving a little bit, in the hot part of the summer. The air underneath these guys would wake you up a little. Man, I'm clearing out a lot of crap. But that's good. Excuse me. These trees have been very easy to grow. When it comes to difficulty, I would say Taxodium ditchum is a fantastic tree for beginners. There's just kind of a few rules. They are very hardy. They produce a prolific amount of limbs. You can over prune them. You know, you could see all of those choices and then just decide to cut them all back and start over. You know, and I do something similar to that, but only after all the foliage is gone for the year. Then I go through it. But if you just like totally defoliated this guy a bunch of stuff, you know, a bunch of times, because you saw somebody do that somewhere, you could suck the energy out of this tree in a way that one year it would just, you know, you wait for it to come back in the spring and it didn't happen. So that's, watch how you know, they produce a lot of energy. Don't spoil that. Let them use that energy to make limbs and branches, and let all those limbs and branches make the taper and the ramification you need for your finished work. To be more clear, when I first set up these 3 trees, I noticed the first summer after they had flushed out that I could use the same tricks that people use to show you pre-bonsai and make them look like bonsai. In other words, it's kind of a comb-over approach. You hide the part where the chop is with the big old huge branch, right? And in that case, even if I have this part and this part covered up with some beautiful foliage, you're still going to see that this became this in between the branches if you look close. But that didn't mean that it wasn't fun to, instead of letting all the foliage run and let it make photosynthesis and make all that photosynthesis turn into starches and sugars and do all that magic and store all that and have that make more parts and have that make more energy. Instead of doing all that, I would cut everything down and practice my styling, and then notice how beautiful they looked and they did. That would also socking back 90% of the limbs and branches that the tree made that spring that it had made to try to do the things that you wanted it to do. And if you continue to act that way because you like the look, you can well and truly stop this thing in its tracks and kill it over time. So as fun as that was to do, I have a mental image of how cool that looked. And though that's been a couple of years now, it would look even cooler now if I did that. We don't do that. So before I get off on that, if I wanted these trees to grow cypress knees, I wouldn't be cutting these surface roots. Wanting cypress knees might be a reason to let all the surface roots just zigzag back and forth and do that thing they do. And it's not even a bad look for them to do that. I could have easily just decided that I wanted to go all natural. But in years past, when I had this looking better, I like the look better. And also I'm just now getting into the time of year where you can see how much growth we're getting over the winter. Like in the spring and summer, your branches grow long. You grow all these little shoots and they just grow longer and fuller, and that's what's going on there. But right now, what's growing its roots and the base, they're getting fatter. These are getting fatter. If you watch your tree, sometimes you'll see new splits in this bark where it just gave way under the tension because everything's getting fat under the surface. Getting, which is awesome. That's absolutely awesome. See, that's already looking better. I pulled all of the moss. I had one side that was fairly heavily carpeted or draped in moss, and I had the other side that wasn't so much. And I pulled all that off, and I'm currently drying it out. And put it anywhere I decide I need moss. Okay, I think that's already looking better. I don't know. Oh yeah, I do have something over here to do. That looks all mounded up there. We'll do something. What is that? That was a wire. Is that a wire or a wood? Aluminum. An aluminium wire. It was aluminum wires. Okay. I wonder if you can see this. Right here. I've been kind of seeing that poke out from the top for a little while now. It comes off the end. I think I should keep that. This is the time to decide. I hadn't decided before I would keep it. I decided before that while I was here working on that, I would address this. And I'm saying this as if you can see what I'm pointing at. I'm not 100% sure that's all visible. But this could be, let's see. Digging down, this is buttress right here. This is pretty wedge-shaped buttress, and we can take that right on down even more and let this base get wider, which is exposing this as more of a all right. Be free. Now that's something else. One thing I definitely wouldn't want to do with my good scissors is go chomping on aluminum wire that's buried in akadama. That's a pretty brutal thing to do. Like this. Put this over here. Put this over here. Okay. This seems to be evening out okay, what I consider to be nicely. I'm able to redress and get this side to match the other side. as to whether or not any of these guys would make good surface roots, I have to remember this is not the surface. We've got Nabari to go in this wedge shape, floats right on out. Yeah, this is a training pot. It's deeper, perhaps shorter by a few inches than what we'll be ultimately going with, and as such, the bases of these might get more exposed as we go. In fact, I'm just taking down a little bit of the top of it to play here, and this little piece of buttress here is going to dictate where the Nabari is there. Pretty easy to do, and like I said, if I would have wanted cypress knees, I would not have gone through there and just cut off all my surface roots, and like I skipped this practice for a year or so, but there for a while. That would be my yearly thing, would be to do this stuff and to do my surface root. So I kind of been slacking for a minute. But I don't particularly want cypress knees as a part of this compilation. I wouldn't cut them off. I know that certain people would get excited to see cypress knees on a compilation like this. So I'm not so opposed to them that if one started popping up right here, I would cut it. But I don't feel like I need it either. It's the design I see myself making doesn't necessarily have cypress knees in it. And I would also probably leave the portion of the base in water. I would raise this up, and I would probably raise this pot up, this planter up, and then put a pan of water in it, and its runoff plus a little could go in here. I've been told that makes a difference, and I've been told, and I've also been told the opposite. I believe John Gene Angel did a test where, I'm not mistaken, a few years ago, trying to get cypress trees to knee by leaving some of them submerged in water and some of them not. And listening to his thoughts were he didn't see where it made a difference. But it's like 2 out of 3 or something. I remember at the time going, well, 2 of them did. But yeah. So if I wanted cypress knees, I would probably, all things being considered, I would probably at least consider leaving them partially submerged, because maybe that helps. Last I heard, we still don't completely know why the trees make cypress knees. Is it to lock them in the same way a buttress helps to hold a building that's growing too tall? Do buttresses, and they would, help a tree that's subject to a lot of wind stay planted, just to fatten out that, and that to me would be to be mine. But then the cypress knees, why they do that, are people hypothesize that it might have something to do with oxygen content, or they might act like little snorkels or something. But you see trees that stay submerged in water, and they don't make cypress knees sometimes. So I don't know. I don't know if that would be our answer. Yes, I have overturned one of these and busted my butt before. I'm Pat. Why would you even have to ask that? All right. I didn't mean to go down that deep. Dang if I didn't. So this is cleaning up, I would say, rather well. Digging out stuff. On the back side, what you can't see me doing is I am digging out stuff from the buttress a little bit, exposing a little bit more buttress. You can't see how weedy this back side is, which I could lie to you and say that it's absolutely beautiful. It's not. It's the worst part over here. I've got more surface roots right here where it's the hardest to get to, because it's the hardest to get to. And I've been shirking this part of it for a minute, shirking my duty. So I'm just going to go right on in here and pretend you can see what it is I'm doing, and continue to clean this up. Oh, this is going to look so good, y'all. All right, we're going in. Boom. I just told you the most roots were here. We're gonna flying in. And making some cornice babies. Ooh. Let's see. That's I have some more that's kind of okay. I have some surface roots up here that are like one of these has a fork coming off in the back, and you know what? I like it. I'm going to leave that. Which is to say, I'm going to try to remember I said that and not cut it when I'm not paying attention to what I'm doing in a few minutes. Because it's right there in the zone where I'm cutting stuff. Okay, these guys can go. I was noticing one of the people I consider to be one of the bonsai gods, and they are known for beautiful, no BS wiring. I mean, they're absolutely known for it. And they were doing their show, and they were doing great work. There was nothing, but I noticed they had Band-Aids on their fingers, and I'm like, yeah. that's good. Then, look at that, would you? That was just, this was circling. All right. Leave that. I think this is going to look so much better. In fact, I would say too late, it already stopped. It already looks so much better. And this is cleaning up those bases too, where they were starting to get a little mossy. I'm literally cutting rock with these side cutters. I'm like, that felt like it. I'm like, yeah, there is. There's volcanic rock in here, so yeah. You're not only are you cutting dirt, but you're cutting glass. We are, I know it's kind of rude of me to be way back here hiding behind the tree, but we're, smell the barn from here. It is wild. Yay, we are mostly also this Akadama looks good. Guys, it looks good. Braille was doing that without being able to see I was doing that. Wait until you grab something that you don't understand, and then everybody gets to see you freak out on camera. You're reaching around there, you can't see what you're doing, and you grab a big old slug or a snail or something, and you go, ah! That would be that would be priceless. Alright, I don't have this raked out yet because I have to just really get in here and get farther out of frame to do that, but we are Yeah. We are this far into going on to other things. Considering this little beastie job done. The backside will be hard for me to sweep and even out like what you see me doing here while being on camera. And while I could probably stand up and walk back there and do that, I'm way too lazy. Plus, that would just make me anonymous knees doing the sweeping. So we'll just say I did that, and I'll do this off camera. In other words, I can't really get back there and dress that out the way I want to, from here or from there, I don't think. But I can darn sure get all of this looking good. And there's nothing about that that's any different. There's nothing really about that that's any different than the part you can't see. What is that? Hey, I'll take that. I'll take that from there. I'm go ahead and get some. Especially in there, especially some here. Alright. This has been cleaning up the surface roots on my 5-year-old pre-bonsai taxodium ditchum compilation. These, as far as I know, unless somebody else takes it over, and that's not the plan. These will stay a compilation, and the bonsai pot I see someday going with is probably going to be a shallow rectangle. Since these guys do lose their foliage, I will have the option of going with the glazed pot. I think a pretty green, speckledy green, and maybe an off-white pot with little green specks or something, like what you see, those little alligator grass or those little things that you sometimes see in bayous and ponds. Are beautiful, but they're also hazardous. They can suck all the oxygen out of the pond. But they make a beautiful bright green color. I think that I saw a pot, a shallow glazed pot that was kind of an eggshell color, and it had green specks in it that reminded me of that grass. I don't know what it's really called. We call it alligator grass, and it's two tiny little oval-shaped leaves and one little root hanging down from the center of it, and they just are by the millions. And I know they used to make a big deal out of wanting people to rinse off the holes of their boat before they go to other lakes and spread those things around because they were problematic. Anyway, that's a long story about alligator grass. But, I see these guys going in a nice ceramic pot at some stage, and we've been growing these for 5 years now. I did this chop, and these two trees came with the chop you see. Although I have modified the angles of both of these chops with sanders and grinders and chainsaws and whatnot. But I did this one with the handsaw, and yeah, whenever I need to wedge up a tree, I always break out this piece and throw it under one end of the pot and use that. Yeah, I can't. Yeah, this is the part I said I wouldn't be able to do on show. Reach through. I've also got a little bit more cleanup to do right here. Stuff like that. Thank you so much for watching. I appreciate you. Frida appreciates you. Having all of this be one surface level and one even cleaned up thing is kind of the idea. I don't think you can see the very back where I haven't done that yet, but I'll have to do that without you. But it's okay, I will. And thank you all so much for watching. It is a quite warm spring feeling day, another spring feeling day in Alameda, Monday, my day off. And we thought we would go out here and just start checking off some of the things on our fun to-do list. Speaking of watching things swell up, you can see the girth coming out in the base right here and on the back side and there. These guys are getting fatter and these guys are getting fatter. This water line shows here how much this is already swollen up this year. It's gonna be a good year. These guys have a lot of stored energy underneath there that we didn't mess with, and it'll be exciting to see them bust out. And thank you all so much for watching.